FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to, and hopefully even watching, us on YouTube on the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Well, person you're about to hear from, really interesting, almost counterintuitive. Throughout the pandemic and the economic collapse, real estate has done amazingly well, probably better than most investments. Obviously, the stock market's at or near record highs, but many of you out there feel a little nervous that it's a fake recovery, et cetera. So you're looking for other things, other places to invest your money. And Chris Arnold, you've closed over 2,500 real estate deals using a marketing channel that you term extremely effective but frequently overlooked, and that is radio, which is a channel that's near and dear to my heart. I've been doing radio and podcasting for over 10 years, and most interestingly, perhaps, Chris, is micro-targeting, finding the exact audience you need to market your deals. And, well, if you got any questions or comments, or you're involved in real estate investing and you're doing well, I'd love to hear from you. Send us an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, Chris, it's really great to have you on. Been looking forward to this interview. You're based out of Mexico now, but you managed to run an active, profitable business in the United States. So tell us about you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing real estate for 15 years. I started right after I finished up grad school. For me, I was looking for a vehicle, really a delivery system that would allow me to focus on the things that I saw most value. So I kind of have a background in theology, went to actual seminary. So for me, man, business has always been a vehicle for impact, the ability to impact things that I was most passionate about. And so through that process, you can imagine 15 years, right? That's a long time. So got real estate brokerage. That's how I got my feet wet, representing people buying and selling, and still have an independent brokerage to this day. Do everything on the investment side, right? Everything on single family, from wholesale, fix and flip, you name it. Involved obviously a lot in the educational side, which I'm truly passionate about. And as you mentioned, man, I do it all from Tulum, Mexico, full time, down here with my wife and I for 3.5 years.
All right. That's pretty cool. And I hope things are good down there. So when you're obviously, you got to have product, as we say in business, you've got to have properties that people want to buy. So finding those properties, many of you out there find to be the most difficult aspect of the whole business. How do you find the right houses here, the right properties that you know are going to sell and sell quickly?
So utilizing radio has been the best thing that I've put into place. But man, I've done it all. If you've been in real estate for as long as I have, you've done everything from cold calling to text blasting to ringless voicemail to direct mail to pay-per-click, SEO, you name it. But what I found over the last 10 years, the one channel that's helped me solve, and you said it, the most challenging part is finding the deal, particularly if I'm going direct to seller, where I'm going to get the very best deal. And I'm dealing with someone that has a distressed situation in which they're needing to sell at a discount and to sell quickly. If I can position myself and get in front of those people, that's half the battle. Anyone can come in and rehab a property or put it into a rental portfolio, but finding the deal is key. And so for me, radio has been the absolute best way to be able to do that.
And it's interesting because many of you out there believe that radio is kind of dying. It's in decline. Many stations, it used to be if you owned your local radio station, you made $1 million a year. Now, many of the radio stations out there are looking to pretty much get the host to pay them for the program. And then they find their own advertisers, or they're using it to market your business, all these things. So interesting that you've taken what many perceive to be a dying medium and turned that into your strongest selling point. How do you do it? Is it infomercials? Is it commercials? Or is it just doing your own show?
We're going the commercial route, and you said it. I wouldn't say it's dying. I think that's a little bit a push out on what's happening, but it's been around forever. It's old. But here's what people don't understand. The demographic, right? The people that we are primarily buying these properties from are over the age of 50. What happens is most people confuse themselves as the demographic. So they think to themselves, well, I got a Spotify account in which I stream my music, or I listen to Pandora. But the problem is you are not your avatar. Your demographic is over the age of 50, and they still primarily have two habits that they do to get information. They watch television and they listen to the radio. And so I agree, radio is old. It's been around forever, but so is our target audience. It's the very thing that's putting us in front of the people that we want to be in front of. And when people begin to realize that statistically throughout the nation, the avatar is over the age of 50, it's like, wow, I didn't realize if you begin to understand that radio is one of the best ways to put us in front of that demographic because they trust radio. They've been listening to it forever.
It's interesting that you mentioned that old mediums kind of getting new life. Another thing that I've heard many of you use out there for different businesses is direct mail, because everyone knows that direct mail is dead and that people can go advertise on the internet for a fraction of what it would cost for direct mail. But that very situation has resulted in less competition in the mailbox. And even though less people go to their mailbox every day, I mean, it used to be, hey, when I was a kid, every day you got the mail because you never knew what would be in it. Now it's like, what junk have they sent me now? So everything old is new again. And what you're saying about your demo there, 50 and over, boomer, I'm a boomer. And I kind of stopped listening to radio and watching TV a long time ago, but I realized I'm really the exceptional case here, that many of you out there still use it as a primary information source, entertainment source, et cetera. So at some point, though, Chris, the boomers, the Xers are going to die out or retire, and it's not really going to be effective. But I guess we still have some time to go before that day arises.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Silver One Resources is an exploration and development company backed by strategic investors Eric Sprott and SSR Mining. At Silver One's Candelaria Mine project in Nevada, there is already a historic resource estimated at 127 million ounces of silver, which Silver One is developing and advancing. The company's Phoenix Silver project, located within the Arizona Silver Belt, is an early-stage exploration project on which native silver vein fragments have been discovered near surface. One grab sample assayed an astounding 14,688 ounces per ton. Yes, that's right, ounces, not grams. Silver One has tremendous exploration potential, is extremely leveraged to the price of silver, and is cashed up and poised to increase shareholder value. Silver One trades in New York under the ticker SLVRF and in Toronto under the ticker SVE. To learn more, go to silverone.com. That's silverone.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Yeah, you got a while to go before that's going to happen. A couple of decades. So absolutely.
Yeah.
But for now, what I find is it's completely overlooked. So if I were to ask you, if you're an investor and you're listening to this show, right, and I would say, who in your area, in your place that you live geographically, is utilizing radio for the sole purpose of attracting motivated seller leads? What I find is you'll start listening to the radio and you'll go, I hear no one. You might hear maybe a lender advertising their lending firm. Maybe you hear a local real estate agent occasionally trying to get listings off of radio. But what I find with radio, the other thing, and you talked about this, is that there's virtually no competition. It's been completely overlooked. And if you want to have an effective marketing channel, and you understand this, the best way to be effective is to be the first and to be the only one at that poker table. And so that's why we call radio the marketing channel that everyone knows about, but literally virtually no one is utilizing. Been completely overlooked.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Everyone's concentrating on podcasting, which I have an affinity for. Been doing it for over 10 years now. But the fact of the matter is that these channels are still alive, somewhat well. Their audiences have diminished because this audience that you talk about is diminishing. Let's face it. I remember when the greatest generation was passing on about 15, 20 years ago, they said 10,000 of them a week were dying. And we're going to get to that point here as well, no doubt. So they call you, you run your ad, they call you. I assume they're going to use the phone to call you because the old fashioned kind of people still transact a lot of business on the phone. When you run an ad, what's the intent?
The intent and call to action is to make the phone ring. We actually don't even put a website or URL on there because this is the highest quality lead that we've been able to generate to date. Think about it. Somebody's driving down the road. They listen to your ad. If they're going to take the time to write that number down and call you, they're motivated to do something. Let's compare this to direct mail, right? Which you were talking about a little bit earlier. Other side of the spectrum in which you're going to get a really high call volume of people calling you back. But we know that over half of those calls statistically are hate calls. Stop mailing my house. So absolutely, you're going to run these calls to the phone. You're going to want to catch these live because these are people that are ready to do something. And the other important point is you are way down the road on the know you, like you, trust you route. So if we're using a spam technique like cold calling or text blasting or ringless voicemail, any of those type of outbound prospecting pieces, we can, find deals that way, but people understand that they're kind of feeling us out because we potentially spam them to get in front of them. Radio is completely different because there's two things you get on radio that you don't get with a lot of the other marketing channels. And that is celebrity status and instant credibility. This is why you run a podcast as well. We understand that psychologically something happens in our minds when we see someone on television or we hear them on the radio, or now in the 21st century, we have podcasts and social media. So what you get is somebody calling you who already considers you to be a local celebrity, and they assume this: hey, you must know what you're talking about because only people who advertise on the radio are experts. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on the radio. That is the assumption that people make about people that advertise on the radio. And then what you get behind that is instant credibility. So not only are you elevated to celebrity status, people then automatically assume that you're credible. You have instant credibility because of radio ads. Happens with television too. Happens with podcasts. That's why you have a podcast.
Absolutely. Authoritative marketing. People write books for the same purpose. All very interesting. Right now, we're having a major electrical storm here, and my lights are kind of flickering. So I've got to cut this a little bit short, but I want you to come back next week, Chris, so we can continue this part 2. Would that be okay?
Yeah, we can make that happen.
All right. Hey, anyways, just tell people how they contact you, how they find you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about radio, you can go to wholesalinginc.com/REI Radio. Again, that's wholesalinginc.com/REI Radio, or you can always go to YouTube and subscribe at Chris Arnold Real Estate to see specific podcasts on actual radio.
All right. Hey, we appreciate that. There'll be a link in the show notes to Chris's site, and you should take a look at it. Chris, we'll talk to you next week. Any questions or comments in the meantime, email me. I'll forward them off to Chris, KL@kerrylutz.com. Our website, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Sign up for the free newsletter. Chris, really appreciate you coming on. Really apologize for having to cut it short, but it's really getting crazy out there. And we will pick up where we left off next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.